Hey everybody, welcome to my first attempt to do an individual title review. So, I just watched Mick Garris's Sleepwalkers for the first time because I had picked up the Shout Factory release, and it turned out to be pretty great. So I'm just gonna, give my thoughts on a little bit about the movie. I'm gonna try to keep it focused more on, how worthwhile the disc was. It's kind of hard to get a clear shot there, but you can see a list of what this came with, which it's not like a long list of extra content. It's somewhat stripped down, but I think that makes it better because each of these features was pretty quick and entertaining. Sometimes if you have, it's possible to kind of have too much extra stuff and it drags on a little bit, but this was pretty manageable in terms of time to actually watch everything that was on the disc and the value that you get out of it too. So we're going to try to keep spoilers to a minimum, so I'm not necessarily trying to talk about the movie, more so the release, but anyway, let's just get right to the point. So Sleepwalkers is, I've learned a lot of stuff about this, watching the extras, which, again, means they were good extras. So this is the first movie that Stephen King wrote to be a movie. It wasn't a book or anything first. And it's directed by Mick Garris, who did Critters 2, Masters of Horror, and honestly an awful lot of stuff to the point I don't remember all of it. But his work is always pretty good, and so I didn't actually know he was involved until I put this in, and it was oh, Mick Garris, nice. But yeah, it was the first time seeing this on Blu-ray, and it turned out pretty great. So it's basically, it's kind of hard to summarize. So in the world of this movie, a sleepwalker is this more or less cat monster that can change its appearance and has other weird powers, and they survive by sucking the life force out of virgin girls, which I was kind of new. And the only way they can be killed is if they're attacked by a cat. So, kind of a quick thing to note too, even though I recommend this movie, if you have trouble seeing violence towards animals, you might want to skip it, because the very first scene, it takes place in, it's not much of a spoiler, it's in the first minute of the movie. So the opening scene takes place at one of the previous places that these creatures were collecting victims at, and so it's this house where there are just dead cats everywhere, mutilated dead cats everywhere, and it's kind of wow, we're getting into oof. So if you weren't ready for that and you're really sensitive to violence against animals, maybe be a little careful with that opening scene. And we do see a few cats killed at different points. They're jumping on the monsters and the monsters throwing them off or snapping their necks to get them off, which was honestly handled a lot more tactfully than I'm probably making it sound. So I mean, it was still, no animals were really hurt, but just if that's a trigger or something for you, just be aware. But anyway, so they pick out, they're in a new town, and they pick out their next target, and for some reason they have to the monster has to romance her first, which is fine. It's just kind of, they don't really explain why. But anyway, without giving too much more away, so it actually gets pretty delightful. There's a lot more kills in this than I was really expecting. It's more about focusing on, this girl being constantly in danger around this shape-shifting guy who he looks like a really attractive guy, but he's really, a freaking creature on here. But without further ado, let's actually get into the extras. So, which technically for me, the first of which was the Shout Factory pre-order poster, which you can see a horrible amount of glare on. Sorry about that. But so I didn't pre-order this title, but a friend of mine did, and well, he sold me his poster because he buys too much stuff and didn't have room. So, I actually picked this up because my friend sold me the poster. And I was like, well, I might as well see it if I'm going to hang it up, and, you know, ended up being a great time. But so, moving down the line here, I've got it on, like, next to me. So the first featurette is Feline Trouble, an interview with Mick Garris. So that was about 18 minutes, and it's basically Mick Garris just giving kind of an overview of like how he got involved in the project. You hear a few things that he also said in the commentary, but the commentary itself is pretty fun, which I'll get into that in a few moments. So. But, you know, he talks about, you know, the conceptualization, you know, a little bit about, like, the reshoots that they had to do for the ending, which they ended up having to do, like, a different ending because the original one didn't, like, test well. And, you know, it's quick, it's interesting, and, you know, it's a pretty good feature, so. And then the next one is When Charles Met Tanya. And so our two main characters in this are, so there's a pair of creatures, like a younger one and its mother. And the younger one is, like, he appears as this boy who has to, like, go out and, like, collect the girls. And so, like, he surprises the girl, like, at her work and starts kind of, like, seducing her. And so this is an interview with both of those actors. And it's about 15 minutes, and you can tell they have, like, a lot of fond memories of this movie, and they're just, like, so excited to, like, be there and talk about it. And it was really nice. It was more of, like, a casual conversation, kind of. And it was pretty good. So I think I might have watched it twice. So I don't remember exactly what they talked about, but it was just nice to see, you know, them having fun. And Mother and More, which is an interview with the actress who played the mother creature. And apparently she had, like, a really distinguished, like, serious career, and it was like, you know, I love doing these sci-fi movies because the character can be so large. So she had some pretty interesting insights into how she approached acting in that role. And that was also about 15 minutes. Like, they kept all the extras pretty trimmed, which I appreciated, because sometimes the person doesn't necessarily have a whole lot to say that's not somewhere else on the disc, and it goes on for, like, 30 minutes, but nope, everything here was, like, cut, clean, to the point, unlike my video here right now. And we have Creatures and Cats, the effects of Sleepwalkers, again, another 15-minute-ish feature, where the guy in charge of the effects talks about, you know, how they brought some of them about. There's an elaborate discussion of the original ending, which, since they didn't use it, I'm just going to totally spoil. Like, the original ending was both of the creatures, when they die, they, like, burst into flames and, like, melt into each other. And it sounds like something, and it's something that they actually shot and did all the effects for, and you can see some footage of that here and in the next feature that's on the disc. But they don't, well, yeah, they kind of go into detail on it, but for whatever reason, that ending just didn't work in testing, so they scrapped it, but you can still see, you know, what it would have been like, and it's cool, but I think what's in the movie actually is better, so, So then we have behind-the-scenes footage, which is just like it's like a little vintage thing. It's only about 6 or 7 minutes long or so, and it's like a bunch of, like, tests of the creature suit, mostly. There were a couple, like, really funny moments, because there's a scene where the cats have to, like, jump on the creatures, and so there's a couple minutes of footage in there where it's, like, the guy in the creature suit, you know, and, like, the cats are just, like, hanging on him, and he's, like, you know, testing, like, how the arms move and stuff, and it was pretty funny. And we've got the theatrical trailer, which, it's a trailer, you know, it's short. There's only one trailer, apparently, for this. We got TV spots, which, I think there's only, like, 2 or 3 TV spots, pretty quick. But it can be kind of fun with the trailers and TV spots on releases like this, to kind of pretend that, you know, you're seeing... It can be fun to pretend that you're seeing the trailer and the TV spots, like, say you were, like, pretend you were watching TV, like, in the time period it was released, which was 92, and it's like, oh yeah, I just saw a commercial for this, you know, and then just imagine you're, like, walking into a theater. Like, I see enough discs that I sometimes have to do stuff like that to kind of, like, pump myself up a little bit, and it can be fun. It's weird, but it can be fun. And there's a still gallery, so with this still gallery, what they did was they do kind of the standard Chet Factory thing where it plays on, like, auto advance. So it's 3.5 minutes, and I think the images change every 3 to 4 seconds. So you get sort of a larger amount of content without it being, like, overwhelming. And most of what I remember in there, aside from the usual, like, production shots, were, like, all these different foreign posters, which were more or less the same, but, you know, it's actually pretty decent for a still gallery. The thing I didn't like about it was, usually you have to hit, like, the chapter forward button to advance for a still gallery, but when you do it on this one, it just, like, shoots right to the end. So you can't really, like, flip through it like you can on some other discs. However, it's a lot better to have, like, that auto advance so that you can just kind of, like, put it on and, like, only look up at it, like, when the image changes. Like, you don't have to, like, sit there for... Oh, what's an example? I have the Umbrella releasing Dark Age Blu-ray, and its still gallery is like that, but it's 20 minutes long, and you have to, like, click through each image. And that can end up taking a while, especially if you want to, like, read or appreciate any of the images. So, and then we get to the actual commentary. So the commentary is Mick Garris, along with the actor who played the guy, and the actress who played the girl. And it was really fun to just listen to them, you know, reminisce about the movie and talk about, it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. Which, you know, fairly standard commentary stuff, but they bring a lot of life to it. And, you know, you can just tell the enthusiasm they have for it, which isn't always a thing in these commentaries. So I think what I liked the most that they covered were the stories about, well, if you've noticed in the poster, there's a very prominently featured cat. So there's, we keep trying to avoid spoilers, but we just keep going into it. So, one of the cops has a cat, and his little tag says, like, Clovis, the attack cat, and he becomes pretty important to the plot. And they keep commenting, whenever the cat is on, they keep commenting about how good the cat actually was. Because it's fairly difficult to train cats for, like, for movies, or really just in general. I think the phrase they used was, dogs have masters, cats have staff. And they were talking about, they were so impressed by this cat, because it was like you could give the cat direction, and it would always, like, do what they needed it to, like, perfectly. And, you know, it really shows in the movie. It's like, wow, the cat is really awesome. Like, the cat does stuff kind of like a dog would almost. It's like, okay, it would be great if the cat did this right now, and, like, then the cat, like, follows through. So his name was Sparks, and it was kind of sad to think about. It's like, you know, this movie's from 1992. That cat must be long gone. And they even commented on that. They were sad. And then, let's see, what were some of the other fun, oh, and I actually didn't notice this part, but they pointed out, so Mick Garris had a lot of horror director cameos in this, so I'm probably going to forget a few, but we got Stephen King, Tobe Hooper, Joe Dante, John Landis, Clive Barker. Did I get maybe I did get everybody. Oh yeah, Ron Perlman was in this too. So, and I didn't recognize any of the directors because it's 1992, and I'm used to seeing all of them as, like, much older men. So it's like, that's something about that. The guy seems, it's like, okay, well, I recognize Stephen King because he's, like, super distinct. Do I know that guy? Who is that? And, like, that happened, like, 4 or 5 more times. And then the commentary, it's like, oh, yeah, that's John Landis. Oh, yeah, that's Clive Barker. And it's like, Oh! So, I mean, it was a pretty good time. So, I mean, overall, like, I would highly recommend this release. So, especially if you already like the movie, but if you haven't seen the movie, and you're okay with some mangled cats here and there, you know, go for it. Like, it's great. And it's definitely better than the other movie I saw yesterday, which, if you follow me on Twitter, like, you know what I mean by that. So, well, I guess that does it for this. So, oh yeah, and I guess sort of an important thing, so, like, I think I paid 22-ish for this, which is pretty good for a Shout title. I would say that this is definitely worth it at 22, maybe even like the higher, like 25, 26 that you see some other Shout Factory titles still offered for. So if you somehow find this at like under 20, just pick it up. Like, do it. So, but anyway, so well, that does it for this quick review. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll be back next time with something also cat-related. Woo! This will probably release totally not in order, so Pet Sematary review coming whenever. Like, share, and subscribe.